So we ready?
We are completely ready, Kevin.
All right. Post Ignorance Radio, Kevin Blanch, KWCR. A lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about Dr. Hanley. I was at his wake, the #1 football player in the history of this school. Donated his brain to the foundation that's studying brain injuries in NCAA college athletes. And we're going to talk a lot about the nuclear geopolitical situation, the Fukushima cover-up. First off, the first thing we got to talk to is Los Angeles City, which is the first municipality in the United States to go 100% alternative energy, solar and wind, which they did that years ago. So this is a big story. So they've reached an agreement deal with the big solar farm that's going on, and they signed a contract with the municipality in Los Angeles, and the nuclear industry and the fossil fuels are shivering their timbers because the contract they signed is pennies on the dollar, and it's already in place, already happening. So we had another, this is the third one in 10 days, local, killed in Afghanistan. Now, 2 of them were killed here, but they blew their heads off. We don't talk about them. But this is another military, so-called, what are we doing over there, contractor, dead in Afghanistan. He has Weber State ties. I wonder if they're going to have a parade for him up at the D Event Center like they did for Brent Taylor and fly flags all over. It's outrageous, this whole freaking propaganda machine. You know how many this is that we've had die in Afghanistan from this campus? I don't see parades for them. I don't see nothing for them. So the hailstorm in Mexico, have you seen this yet?
Yeah, I saw this, the hailstorm, yeah. That was terrible.
Well, I don't even think there's more to this story to come.
Jalisco State,
Yeah, 5 feet. But, so the thing I want to record in history today is Dr. Hanley. Who's Dr. Hanley? Let's see if I got a picture of him. Dr. Hanley is the most famous football player in the history of this university. No one even comes close. All-American. 1968-69ish. The dean of the Wattis School of Business. And first off, before I dive into this and the endowment here, the General Electric endowment, he died this week. Too young. Brain injuries got him. Killed him. I spoke at the wake here. President of the university was there. All the professors. I got up there and, I went off. By the way, his old secretary was there. The hijacking of the university, the corporate whoredom of the university was talked about. He resigned over all this, by the way. We were the #1 school of business in the United States, bar none. First off, before I get back to this, I want to talk about Trump's dog and pony show with the murderer, North Korean scumbag. Let's remember, you guys that are all gung-ho, Trump this, Trump that, in North Korea. This fat little creep, who he's great man, murdered his own brother in broad daylight, murdered his own uncle, had his own uncle executed. This is the most repressive dictator on the face of the earth. This is the most atrocious freaking human rights violator on earth. The second most atrocious violator of human rights on earth, who's that? That would be Prince Salman. Who's that? The Saudi Arabia? So they're all in Japan. These fools don't even know about Fukushima. You know, how will Trump's presidency end? My guess, it'll end with cancer and it'll kill him. That's my prediction. These guys going to Japan, the ignorance is there. The place is radioactive.
To have a good radioactive...
So, let's get real. Well, how many times has he been in Japan with Abiy? Abiy's another, that guy's one of the greatest dirtbags who ever walked the face there. How did Abiy get reelected? Do you know the United States had to call special election? Now, here's the fraud of this. Trump calls boogeyman, 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 North Korea. Fox News beats the drum, boogeyman, boogeyman, they're going to nuke you in Japan. Trump's like, we're going to bomb him. We're going to bomb him. We're going to attack him as soon as Trump gets in office, right? That was the thing. He goes after this guy harder than anybody. Okay? He goes after this guy harder than anyone. Then, the United States totally 100% controls Japan. I mean, you forget third grade history? What's the matter with this country? Yalta by the Sea, when they divided up the world? The Soviets took Eastern Europe, we took Japan. We controlled Japan, 100% lock, stock, barrel. Abiy was due for election this year. How? They called special election? The United States had to freaking do that. They did do it. Boogeyman, 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 boogeyman. They get Abiy, the scumbag, the Fukushima cover-up creep, re-elected. How did that happen? Then immediately, this little fat creep in North Korea is Trump's new best buddy. Great man. What happened to the boogeyman? No president with any self-dignity, not even Bush, not even Reagan, not even Barry Antoinette Obama would set foot or even take a photograph with this dirtbag. Now, Obama broke ranks and did take some photographs with King Solomon. Now, remember, this is a guy who beheads upwards of 40 people a day. You heard me right. Beheads up to 40 people a day. Stones women to death. Every day, the most repressive, the Saudis. These are the people who funded the 9/11 terrorists. It's unarguable. Unarguable. The people that funded the 9/11 terrorists. It's unarguable. Not my words, Donald Trump's words. Donald Trump, for freaking years, pounded the drums, beat the drums. We need to go after the Saudi royal family for funding the freaking 9/11 terrorists, including in his own campaign. Who is Trump with? Taking photos, kissing his hand. King Solomon in Japan. Then he's off to North Korea, the two biggest killers, the two biggest dictator repressives who should be bombed off the face of the earth. North Korea and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia should have been white. I mean, not their people. That monarchy should have been taken out when 9/11 happened. No, we have Afghanistan and Iraq, who had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11. 0.0. Trump's own words. I used to go to his rallies in New York all the time. We need to go after the Saudi royal family. That's who funded the 9/11 terrorists. Yep, that's right, Trump. So now Trump sits with... Not only that, Trump's women. Trump's women, who's the biggest repressors to females on the face of the earth? The Saudis. Even more than the North Koreans? They behead how many women a year? They behead them. They publicly stone them to death. For even just made up stories. Trump's women are sitting taking photographs with this guy. Unheard of, unprecedented, never happened in the history of this country. And you people are going to grandstand and sit and say, yeah, geopolitical. I mean, it's outrageous. It's off the hook. It's ridiculous. What is the matter with you people? It's disgusting. It's outrageous. And you're going to grandstand and gung-ho this guy. I mean, nuclear. The biggest nuclear bomb in the history of mankind went off on March 11, 2011. It's called Fukushima. It goes off all day, every day. No handle on it. Pouring into the Pacific Ocean. It's outrageous. Okay, so let's get to what I'm going to tag these videos. This is historic stuff. The Weber State Endowment. So, Mr. Hearst, whose name's on the wall right there, who built this building, who built the clock towers, who invented Waldo, our mascot. I ran into him the other day. He's 94. He wouldn't let me get away for 3 hours. God, I mean, just made sure I knew all these stories. I says, well, you still running the endowment here? The General Electric stock at this university? Yeah. I says, at 94? Yeah. I says, you still own all that GE stock, don't you? Yeah. I says, remember when I told you to get out of it at $64? Yeah, well, Kev, it's 10. Is it still not transparent? So this is important. The Wattis School business, the Wattis General Electric is Utah Construction. I have a picture here of Mariner Eccles, Federal Reserve named and Littlefield. Littlefield was the CEO of General Electric. That's this endowment on this university. They built the reactors at Fukushima, Japan. They cheated. So Dr. Hanley and I taught together. Who's Dr. Hanley? Bruce Hanley. The greatest football player in the history of Weber State, bar none. All-American, 1960s. The Waterskirts lost the championship game. By the way, Dr. Sessions told me his teeth's on the 20-yard line now. Got knocked out. He got leukemia the same time I got leukemia. The Waterskirts. So let's go back to Weber State University in the 1990s when I was teaching there as a young adjunct professor working on degrees. Who ran the whole program? Who was the chairman of the business administration? Bruce Hanley, Ph.D. This intimidating presence from hell. He ruled that school of business with an iron fist. Was he starting to develop some brain stuff then? Yeah, I could see it. Now before I go, I want to say this. In the end, Bruce Hanley voted to kill the Weber State Athletic Department. He was quoted in Sports Illustrated about the corruption here. Bleeding $1.5 million a year, the football program. He voted to kill it. He went after him. He called it the most corrupt freaking institution in the country. That's his words, not mine. This is a guy who played there. He was quoted in Sports Illustrated. What's the chance of him cleaning this up and fixing this? His quote, a snowball's chance in hell. He was all about ethics. He was integrity. There was no wavering with this dude. He was vicious. He was mean. We had our fights, he and I. But in the end, he came to respect me. I respected him. So in the 1990s, we were the #1 school of business in the United States. Who was our sister school? We used to go back and forth with, including him. Back to Pennsylvania to teach. They would come here. We were 1 and 2, neck and neck. Not some opinion in the testing. Wharton at Penn. Trump school? That's right. Hamiltonians. Tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. #1, you heard me right, #1, #1. When I graduated the second time in '96 with Mikado, the son and daughter I graduated with of the Japanese royal family. 1999, it gets announced that Weber State is awarded an MBA program via Bruce Hanley, via Dr. Clyde Cooley. I says, well, I'm coming home. I'm getting that first MBA. I come home. I walk into class. Where's Clyde? Haven't you heard? No. He's got a brain, something the matter with his brain. 10 days before the program started into class in the summer semester, just like now. Couldn't write on the board. As soon as I had to lead him. He had mad cow in his brain. Ate him alive and killed him. Dr. Hanley to me. Kevin, you got to help out. You're his protege. How can I help out? I don't have an MBA. Yeah, nobody on the... You got to do it. I don't have an MBA. You do now. I just gave it to you. Go. So a guy named Kyle Madsen stepped in. Great guy. No Clyde Cooley. So I will quote the secretary at the wake. The wake was Friday. No, Saturday. I sat right next to the new president of the university. He got an earful from me. I says, after I gave my speech, I says, really, how did you finally bail too? She says, oh, I got out. I finally got, I wish I'd have listened to you. I got out in 2007. I says, well, how did they do it? They just slowly chipped away. I says, yeah, when Clyde, because Dr. Hanley had brain issues. He beat leukemia. He had leukemia beat. This guy was a beast right to the end, and I mean a physical beast. Incredible good. I'll never forget it. I walk into his office one day, 2003, 4-ish. The secretary says, well, Kevin wants to talk to you about this, you know, blah, blah, blah. Kevin, who? Kevin Blanch. He's right here. Kevin. Who? And he, who? What? I don't know. And right then I was like, oh, God. Uh-oh. He's going the same way as Clyde Cooley. And I walked in and he looked at me, and for about 2-3 minutes he didn't know who I was. And he, you know, I left, I come back, oh, Kevin, blah, blah. And I'm like, at his funeral, he had a helmet that he used to play with, and they made sure they put it up. And it was cracked down the side and broken. He donated his brain in the end. I'll tell you what, me and him had our fights, we had our feuds, we had everything, but in the end, boy, did he gain some respect from me. And he always had it anyway. How do we go from the #1 school business in the United States to don't go see the Dalai Lama, don't even rank in the top 300? So the football program here, which is one of the greatest turnarounds in NCAA sports history, nobody went after the NCAA harder than he did. He used to say they were nothing but slave owners. I'll be doing the play-by-play. We're going to do a thing for him. In the 90s, this university's football program was the most corrupt in the United States, bar sex for grade, the losingest program in the United States. Into the 2000s. So much corruption. The school business is corrupt right now, right here. And I want to say this is important. I'll get this recorded in history. At the wake, Jeff, all these different people that are over, not one single, not the dean of the school business, not one single professor showed up to his wake. Not one. Not one. All the ex ones were there, the old ones were there. It's an ironic story that this #1 elite ethics freaking boutique, non-corporate school of business becomes this corrupt. Not only the corruption of them taking over the supply chain, all are going to double their salaries, pat themselves on back. This is the corruption that's happened all over America. This is the corruption that's happened to academia. This is the corruptions, the brainwashing, the me, the selfishness. You won't find a Ph.D. on this campus right now. It's summer semester. You won't find one. Why? They're on vacation. Because they're making so much money. They don't do research. They don't do work. That's why thus there's no new knowledge. They're comfortable. They're book reporters. They don't care about scores. They don't care about students. These professors do not care about students. Students are going to school all across America because they're getting money. They need money. They're going in. It's a fraud. It's disgusting. This country, and this is important because this is coming right from Hearst's mouth. This is a state-funded university with a giant endowment. All General Electric stock. In the 90s, in the 2000s, I advised them. I was an advisor. I was an adjunct professor. They screwed me over so hard it was unbelievable. Sitting on literally tens of millions of General Electric stock. Just the school business endowment was $40 million. The school's couple $100 million of the public's money, the public's money, the public's money. Non-transparent. The same person who sold off the signal on this university, who's the Board of Regents, who's a name guy, Carroll's. These are the most derelict freaking money managers in the history of this freaking country. This stock is $10 and going bankrupt. They still hold it all. They have wiped out so much of this school's money that was raised and left to them by philanthropists for all the right reasons. They have looted it. It's disgusting. Handley went after him. Cooley went after him. Isn't it an irony how they're dead? I call it the water's curse. They saw the blood in the freaking water and they jumped on it. So, I ran into Mr. Hearst, God bless the old timer. He's 94, you know, and for 3 hours all he had to do was sit and tell me how great he was. Still. I remember thinking after I walked off, he's still at that. I mean, I've known this guy for 40 years. All he does is sit and tell her. He has no college degree. He's not from here. He's a commercial artist. And how did he get his place in time? I'll tell you how he got it. There's a place right up here at the old art school. It's called the Lampros Hall. What's the Lampros? Who's Lampros? Lampros was the money manager for First Security Bank. Who's First Security Bank? The Mariner Eccles, the Federal Reserve guy, the biggest holding company on the face of the earth, the biggest banking empire on earth. Ogden, Utah, Weber State, he was the guy who ran it. He hooked into him somehow. My daughter Hirsch did draw Waldo, and he didn't. God bless the old timer. He's the guy who drew the bell tower, put it up. He's the guy that removed the Doyle Strong paintings out of the Wadis. I mean, this guy, it was the money. The money controlled this place, but these philanthropists, as they died, left it. And there was plenty of them here. He told me that Val Browning, when they named Val Browning, say the great war profiteer Val Brownings, who sold to both sides, he says he didn't show up to the Browning Center. To this, I says, of course he didn't show up. There was a resistance artist. Everybody knew they were war profiteers. They're not going to face anybody. These people hide. They change their names between their blood money. Now, Mariner, he called himself the great socialist, by the way. And I love how people are talking communism, socialist, freaking blah, 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 blah. You think China's communist? You have got your head so far up your... That's a monarchy. There's more capitalism there than the history and the 1920s in the United States. It's slavery. It's built on the back of slavery and genocide. That's what China is. It's an elite ruling class who have hooked in through the Wadis School of Business. The Wadis School of Business is all Chinese oligarchs' kids now. You can look it up. The Chinese professor don't go see the Dalai Lama. Their scores, they only test 500 and some on. They didn't even hit the type 500. How do you go from number one? Just what I said. It's outrageous what has happened to our... This is a state university. This is a state university. They pummeled the purse here. They sold off our signal. Why? Why? Because this radio station was a counterculturist radio station. This was the checks and balances. That's what they do, Operation Foxconn. And these idiots regurgitate this stuff. You know, you want to compare the United States to northern Mexico? People living in dirt huts? Are you kidding me? Why don't you compare the United States to Europe right now? Well, I spent plenty of time in Europe. The quality of life in Europe is 10 times higher than the United States. The quality of life in the United States is at all-time lows. All-time lows. All-time lows. Do you want me to go on? Do you want me to prove it? Number one, have you seen the debt? Working hours. The longest work week in human history. Where? When? How? The United States of America, right here, right now. The biggest personal debt structure in the history of mankind. The biggest rent to personal income, highest ratio in the history of mankind. The United States. The highest mortality rate, the highest cancer rates in the history of mankind. Right here, right. The highest obesity, the highest addiction rates, the highest alcoholism rate, the highest opium freaking death rate. I'll go on and on and on and on. You want to sit and talk about freaking quality of life high here? Are you kidding me? I mean, it's outrageous what is, and then you want, we're going to colonialize the world? Let's have another parade for Brent Taylor on this university? When we have, you know how many young men have died in Afghanistan and Iraq? You know how many from this university? Dozens and dozens and dozens. We're going to have a parade for Brent Taylor? I mean, flags, buildings named. What about the rest of them? What about the rest of them? Another one dead today. Another one. The Far Boy blew his head off last week. I knew him. I mean, I can go on and on and on. How about Jerry's kid, son out there in Hooper? Blew his head off 2 weeks ago. How about the young Vigil? You know the Vigil boys that play in the NFL? Do you know about those boys? There was one better than them. They have a cousin that was even better than them from this university. He was a better player than the two starting freaking players in the NFL from this town. Weber State wouldn't give them a look. They had to go play at Utah State. Starting middle linebacker in the NFL. They had a cousin. Where's he? He's in the graveyard. He's in the cemetery. He came home from Iraq and he blew his head off. I don't see a parade for him. I don't see anything for him. You can go along with this military industrialized war machine. That's not a war. That's colonialism. How long have we been in Afghanistan? How long? Do you know we have spent, I think I read the other day, since 9/11 happened, we have spent $23 million an hour in this country on this war machine for these occupations. These are occupy Japan, occupy Afghanistan, occupy Iraq. Let's all go out occupy Iran. You know, North Korea. I stepped into the DMZ. Oh my God. Oh my God. John McCain was right about that, and I didn't like John McCain. I was not a fan. I wrote my master thesis on this campus on the savings and loan scandal. The Keating freaking 8. You know, John McCain was one of those guys that probably should have went to prison over that corruption. I didn't like him at all, but he was right about North Korea. That's a dictator from hell. That's a sick, disgusting dictator. Just like the Saudis. Trump's two new best buddies. Obama's buddy too, you know, at least Obama wouldn't, I don't think Obama would, bad as he was, I don't think he was going to go freaking take photo ops with this murderer in North Korea. A bee in Japan. What a dirtbag to cover up a Fukushima. Let's start this video over so I have enough.